Welcome to Indie Book Magic, a podcast that connects geek readers and writers in an open, lighthearted, and occasionally random environment. We're your friendly hosts, Janeen Ippolito and
H. Burke.
And we're glad you're here with us today on our inaugural podcast. And it's the beginning of the year. So in honor of it being our first podcast at the beginning of 2018, we are talking about goals, because that is like the popular thing to talk about at the beginning of the year. New Year's resolutions and all that, right, Heidi?
Yeah, and we're all about the bandwagon here.
Oh yeah, we totally are all about like doing whatever all the cool kids are doing. Nah, actually, we're going to give you a bit of a different perspective today on goals. We are not here to give you our like time-tested 30-step to win program, because I don't think we have one.
No.
No. And if we did, we probably wouldn't follow it ourselves, so we wouldn't expect you to follow it anyway.
No, and it would be more like a 400 steps with like 7 side steps, 6 back steps, and I don't know.
and like spontaneous musical numbers in the middle of it, and porgs and all kinds of things like that. So,
yes.
With that being said, we're just going to talk about goals kind of in a broad scale and in ways that hopefully are useful to you as readers and writers, in terms of applying them to your life and helping you be your awesome instead of trying to be our awesome, because we are like our own awesome and we don't want you to be like us. We want you to be like you. So, goals, how to keep them, when to wreck them, and everything else in between them. Now, when we talk about goals, the biggest thing and one of the biggest reasons why people don't often make goals is because they're afraid they're going to break them. And they're like, in fact, they know they're going to break them. And the biggest joke on making New Year's resolutions is how long it's going to take you to break them. One of the big things here is, well, Heidi and I are not huge like goal legalists in terms of what you have to like follow. The big deal is that when you make a goal with writing especially, you're going to find hiccups. You're going to find times when they get broken. It's just going to happen.
Okay? Oh, yeah, because life happens.
Yes, life happens, characters happens, plots happen. And even if that is all ironed out, things happen from beta readers and then all the way into production, just stuff happens. So the biggest part of doing goal achievement is not necessarily like setting these like really itemized goals, although that can be helpful. So if that's your groove, we're not dissing that. But the most important thing when trying to achieve goals and to do goals is to know how to pick yourself up when they get wrecked and broken and you're sitting there like, but I had a goal and it's not there anymore.
Yeah, because you don't want to sit sad for too long. You need to, eat that chocolate and move on.
Yeah. You sit there, you eat the chocolate, you get whatever happy beverage or anything else, you binge watch some TV or something, and then you got to figure out how you're going to push through and accomplish the things anyway, even if it's not on your original perfect, pristine schedule.
Yes.
So being able to push through is one of the biggest assets you can bring to any kind of goal setting, whether it's like really regimented, like everyday kind of goal setting, or whether it's more like in about around this month-ish, I'm going to finish this book thing. So with that, Heidi is pretty awesome in terms of figuring out how to get around those things that sidetrack you, as a pretty accomplished self-publisher in that area. So
yeah, and sometimes the sidetracks are what you want to do. I mean, if you start writing on something and it's not interesting you, but something shiny pops up, maybe it's because you're supposed to be writing the shiny. I don't know how many times I've known exactly what I was going to write next and just couldn't get started, and then something new and never seen before pops into my brain, and instead of that, I'm writing this. And that's good. I mean, it may not be what you thought you were going to work on, but it's there for you, and it might be what you need to work on, If you need to keep flexible and you need to be able to chase that shiny. Sometimes the shiny isn't the right thing. Like if you've been working for 3 months and you are 50,000 words into a project and you're just getting tired of it, you got to recognize whether you just need to push through and finish the one thing. I mean, I know you work on multiple projects at once, right?
Oh, I have to work on 2 or 3 projects at a time because I get burned out on one and then I hop to the other one. So I'm always working on something.
See, my process is a little different because I have my passionate I'm in love with you project, which is like a marriage, and it's my everything for like 3 months. And I would be a terrible serial monogamist if my book.
Every 3 months, you get a new husband. There you go, a new book husband to work on.
Yeah, but when I'm in with the book, I'm all in with the book. So there are times in marriage where you lose the passion, and then you just have to try something new. I find throwing in a dragon often is the something new that the marriage needs or the book. So yeah, and so sometimes you need to know the difference between that rabbit trail that you're supposed to follow and that rabbit trail that might just be a distraction from your true passion.
Right. And as you get more experience and more into the habit of setting goals and then achieving them or not achieving them, you'll figure out ways that you get past it and ways that you can add things or change things or figure out what are your signature themes in the way you write books, and you get yourself out of those binds faster. And
I find it helps if you have like scenes you're looking forward to. I used to, when I was younger, I would write the exciting scenes first and then never want to go back and write the so-called boring scenes in between. But now that I find that if I force myself to write those boring scenes, I usually find something to put in there to make them not so boring, just so I don't drive myself crazy. A lot of times it's just the characters snarking at each other.
Yeah, and there's things.
Other times I'll just throw in a cat dragon.
You can't go wrong with throwing in a cat dragon. I literally actually got myself out of a bind in a story by throwing in a cat dragon.
I know, and yeah, it's like the unicorns and the things that I put in like Spellsmith and Carver. I really wish that they weren't owned by Disney, because I really would like to put a porg in a book now. Oh
man, yes, that would be fantastic. And I want to put some ice foxes. Actually, I could do an ice fox because that's not like technically.
Yeah, and they don't own ice foxes. They own everything, but they don't own ice foxes.
Yeah, they own pretty much everything at this point, but ice foxes are still free for everyone's use.
They're free.
And so another part of goal achievement that's a good general principle about it is figuring out how to set goals that are going to help you instead of make you frustrated. Because another issue with people who set goals in writing or in life or in anything is that you set goals that are going to make you really frustrated, that are going to sometimes they're actually too long term. So you set this big giant goal, like at the end of this year, you're going to finish a book. Well, that's great. But if you don't have it broken up into smaller chunks that you can achieve on a more daily or weekly basis, then it's going to get overwhelming and you're not going to get the satisfaction of completion. And we like to complete things, it's a thing. Writers like that kind of that carrot of, getting to that next level. Okay. So, it's like gamers, we want to get achievement unlocked. I got to the next section.
And you don't want your like excitement level to be a flat plane of just trudging along through the whole year. You need some bunks in between. There's some highs and some, some jump ups and excitements you can celebrate.
A couple things that can make that really helpful is, again, setting manageable goals. I know that you had to try to go for like 1 or 2K a night. I try to go for 1K a night. When I worked full time, I might go for like 500 words a night just to get something done.
Yeah.
And so that kind of daily goals can really help out and getting you move forward. It doesn't mean that you have to do everything every night, because people have lives and we have things you have to balance, obviously. But
yeah, sometimes there's a psych marathon on.
Oh yeah, a psych marathon. Got to binge watch something, or something like crazy happens, like your child gets sick, or your significant other actually wants to know that they exist, and things like that. So things like that happen that kind of get in the way of that whole achievement thing, but are still good things to, take time out of your writing to do. But making short-term goals and those smaller goals is incredibly important in achieving those big long-term goals and making sure those long-term goals work.
Yeah, as you do have long-term goals, and a lot of people. I'd like to remind people that most authors aren't going to make it on their first book. There's a few magical people who could do that, but for most of it's going to be a long game. You're going to be writing books for years before you see a level most people would consider a success. So you've got to keep in mind, like my personal long-term goal when I started this was eventually to make enough money that it would be a supplemental income to my husband's eventual Marine Corps retirement. And that's something that I'm thinking of like years out. Even now, because even though he can retire pretty young in the Marine Corps, he can't retire just yet.
Yeah, it's got some time there.
And you can give that something too. Like you might want to eventually build your portfolio up to 20 books, or maybe you want to finish a series. And those long-term goals are great. And you need to put your short-term goals so that they support the long-term goals, and be willing to adjust those short-term goals to kind of meet the long-term goals in the middle. Mm-hmm. Like if you find out something's not working, but you still have that long-term goal that you want to do, and that's what you're really working for, that's your end game, that's what you consider success, you really should like adjust when you have something that isn't working for you, so that you can keep that end in sight.
And again, that's where it's important to figure out from the start of your writing. I know We talk about the creativity and the just going and writing whatever fills your heart and just doing it. And that's great. And if you want writing to be just a very like chill hobby on the side that you do like once in a blue moon when the spirit moves you, that's fantastic. But if you really want to get it to publication, either in terms of submitting to a traditional press or self-publishing, you do have to figure out what you want to get out of it and what those long-term goals are so that you can actually then achieve them. Because if you don't have an idea of what your long-term goals are, then again, you're going to get stuck. You're going to get demotivated because you're not really sure what you're really doing it for in the end.
Yeah, and for some people that might be financial. For some people it might be seeing themselves in bookstores and on library shelves. And for others it might just be a certain level of like people they've touched or, lives they've changed. And all those are good. There's nothing wrong with any of those. It just, you have to know what is your heart and where you want to be with this. Because if you don't, then it's just going to push you around, because the short-term goals and the short-term successes are nice. But after a while, it's like, yay, I sold a book. I sold a book, another book.
Yeah.
There's another. But it comes in so slowly that it's not going to be the quick peaks that are going to keep you going. It's that long game.
Yeah, very much so. And it's important to get into a community that supports that. Because that's one thing, especially as I see people going for goal achievement, is if you find yourself in a community where individuals in that community understand your goals and have similar goals, then you're going to be able to encourage each other and move forward. But if you're a writer who is writing to have books that your daughters can read, or to have books for a certain kind of outreach or ministry or something, you're not going to find your satisfaction in a group that is filled with people who are trying to crank out books as quickly as possible to get to that 50K. You're going to find a lot of disruption. You're going to find a lot of confusion, and you may even find yourself demotivated from your own goals. And it doesn't mean that their goals are wrong or that your goals are wrong, but you need to find groups and community that are going to understand, respect, and help you push and promote your goals.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody doesn't take you seriously because you're not making money, or if somebody, puts you down because they think you're not being true to your art because you're making money, both of those are not healthy attitudes. Anybody who thinks that the way you're doing it is wrong because it's not the way they're doing it, you kind of need to separate yourself from that really quick.
Yeah. You just got to figure out, where you're going, and put in your life positive people who are going to really both keep you accountable and keep you on track with your goals, but also understand what your purposes are and not try to superimpose their purposes on you. And of course, it goes without saying that you, as an awesome writer person, would never want to put your goals on someone else either, because we all respect each other's goals in the writing community. And speaking about the writing community and the larger community, other goals that are important to keep track of are those actual non-writing goals. Those things that remind us that writers are actually people too, that we have to, eat and sleep and do other things that, normal people in the world who don't have characters in their head do.
Believe it or not, we cannot live on printer ink alone.
That would actually get very expensive too. Like, my goodness.
I know. Yeah. The worst possible,
the ratio the ratio of ink in those cartridges to the amount that the cost of it. Oh man, you'd starve.
You would go broke. But yeah, it's important to take breaks, even not it broadens your mind. I mean, people always tell you to write what you know, and that doesn't necessarily mean you can't write dragons because you've never met a dragon, or you can't write about a trip to Italy without going to Italy. But the experiences in life, like when I was writing as a young person, I'm writing about falling in love, or writing about traveling, or riding on an airplane, or eating a certain kind of food I've never eaten. All those add into your life experiences. So in the end, it will help. I mean, not everyone has the financial ability to travel to Europe, but you have the financial ability to most likely explore your area and see what there is, and who knows what that could inspire. And it's a good relaxation. So a goal to travel more, even if it's just within 100 square radius, or a goal to experience more, to try new foods, to meet new people, or to read more books. Because I think sometimes when you start writing, you stop reading for a little while, because reading can actually be frustrating in some ways. I mean, you start, why can't I write this? Or maybe you start picking it apart because you've been taking one too many editing classes.
Oh yeah, so there can be ones that are how did this get published? How did that get published, etc. You can build up unhealthy attitudes of resentment. And I have heard of authors who really can't read while they're writing because they tend to mimic and borrow the style of whatever they're reading.
I try not to read within the genre I'm writing while I'm writing, since I don't want to do that. But I can read out of genre usually.
Yeah, see, I'm actually the opposite. I choose, whenever I'm writing, I choose to read something that's pretty specifically in genre. I'm not really worried about mimicking their exact voice, but if I read something out of genre, I am going to start bringing that genre into my stories. And, like I'm reading something like nonfiction or, historical fiction, something that may not work very well for my fantasy stories with dragons and such. So basically figure out what works with you in terms of that and stick to it, but definitely invest in yourself in a reading list. Get on Goodreads or something and fill up those wonderful bars. I know for me, that was my goal this year. So I had that 25 books, and I would just go in there and be like, you know what? I don't really have much time to read, but I am going to make it to that 25 books, even if I have to like find a couple of short stories that kind of sneak under there and do
all
that.
The short stories, all the comic books, and sometimes you get desperate and you count those picture books you read 3 times as your kid.
Or also when I for the first 4 months of this year, I was still an English teacher, and I would count the books that my students were assigned to read in class, because you know what? I had to read them too. So I added those to my Goodreads list.
Still counts.
It counts. It's also important to make sure you're taking care of yourself and your own personal groove, your own personal creativity. One thing that I encourage writers to do, and I encourage them and myself as well, is to have creative hobbies that aren't necessarily writing. Find other ways to express your creativity, because especially when you hit burnout where you just don't have the ideas anymore and you can keep pushing and pushing and pushing and the well is dry, it's important to have other outlets that you can be creative in and that can open up your mind in different ways, so that you can go back to writing refreshed.
Is that wood burning now, or did you?
Oh, no. The wood burning is staying. I have been told by people that I have found my thing.
I love crochet is mine, and it seems like such an old lady hobby, but I can make animals with crochet. It's something I've been always really good at. So,
and I'm kind of a pyro, honestly. So the idea that I can make really pretty things, that I'm secretly destroying wood and making really pretty things out of it, is kind of a beautiful thing there.
It's probably not a good story for right now, but I have some family history of bad uses of fire, including maybe a multi-acre wildfire.
Well, yeah. It depending on where you are in the country right now, fire could have very negative connotations. I appreciate that, and respect that. But in the case of a small tool that is used to carve pretty things into a box,
you're probably safe.
Yeah, I'm pretty safe there. The only thing I get is a couple of minor burns when I get a little bit spacey sometimes.
Yeah, and of course it's important to eat and sleep and exercise, like
spend time with your family, spend time with your friends, not always talking about writing 24/7, even though that can be difficult when that's all you think about. So yeah, taking those times for family and friends, and also giving yourself grace when real life happens. People get sick, you get sick, your family members get sick, or things come up that you have to deal with, or you have a death in the family.
California catches on fire and you have to
California
evacuate.
catches on fire, yeah. Or like you have a death in the family and suddenly you have, you find it difficult to write because of that. These are okay reasons to delay your goals. Again, we go back to flexibility. It's okay to be flexible and to delay that so that you can take care of yourself, take care of your family, and give yourself grace in all of that.
And there will be another day to write, but like I said, there won't be another honeymoon. You shouldn't be like writing on your honeymoon. There probably won't be another newborn baby. So if you've got like a 3-day-old baby, take a break.
Yeah. Take a break for a lot of reasons if you have a baby. Yeah, like just sleep whenever you can when you have a baby. That's what I recommend for people.
Yeah, and I think as well as taking care of yourself, there's the importance of taking care of others, especially in like this indie community is so small, and we're all a little bit dependent on each other. I mean, it's really hard to make it on your own in this world. So you should try to I like to try to set like small goals to help back, and you can't do everything, but like, I have a personal goal to do a better read or a critique of somebody else's work once a month, because that's something I need all the time. And I know how hard it can be to find good voices to do that. So I try to make myself available. Sometimes my critique partners never speak to me again. Maybe I just need to chill out a little.
This can be a hazard, but yeah, it is important to do that. Giving back is a great way to just build the community. And even outside of the indie community, you'd be amazed at how your willingness to create things that are going to uplift other writers and build that stronger sense of, community can really bless even people who are in like larger areas. Like even these bigger writers might even take notice of that, because the thing is, just because they come from like maybe a major trad press or something like that doesn't necessarily mean they have it all together. Doesn't necessarily mean they aren't working just as hard as you to promote their stuff. In fact, they're probably working even harder because they're getting some pressure from their press to market themselves and to put themselves out there. So it's just really a good way to bless everyone with that. And for myself, I know people would say, well, of course, you know, I work with authors and they pay me money for that. But I also have a group where I just offer value and stuff for free and comment on people's things and take time to read people's stuff just to continue to give back and to build that. It's really important to have that sense of altruism.
Yeah, and you can't kind of go into this with your hands grasped shut, because I find you end up losing more because you can't hold very much in a tight fist, you know?
And it can, on the marketing side, as you like build those community, first of all, it helps you build friendships that can help you create accountability and achieve your own goals, as well as help other people achieve their goals. And it does open up opportunities to cross-promote. Not that that's the reason you should be going into it, but it can be helpful in the future. But genuine, authentic connection does that. And people can smell when you're just in it to just try to be reciprocal and, you know, I'll do for you, you do for me kind of stuff. So...
yeah, and it's also important. You can set boundaries. Don't feel like you have to beta read everything, and don't feel like if somebody asks you to beta read something that's not in your genre or that you wouldn't pick up off a library shelf. Generally, if you're doing that, you won't help them either if you don't really like that. Or like if somebody asks you to give you advice, it's okay to like link them a few articles instead of like spending days typing out everything, you know, because it's been done before. If they want to go to the Creative Pen, they probably just don't know where to look. If you show them like 2 or 3 really good resources, Cam Weiland, I'm drawing a blank off the top of my head, but it's fine to give them some resources and just say, here's this will help you, and you can read it at your leisure, you know?
Yeah, very much so. And so making sure that you contribute in that way can really just overall help you to achieve your own goals and help you to have a really good solid peace of mind with all of that. Thank you for joining us today at our very first podcast.
Yes, this was hopefully fun for you. It was fun for me, but that might just be the porgs hanging out.
Yeah, porgs have this ability to make everything just so much more.
They make everybody smile.
Yes, they do.
Do we think we should set some personal goals for this year? Like, I'd like to use the word porg more often.
Yeah, that's really is a thing, and I definitely want to invest in some more art with cat dragons in it. I think that's going to be a good thing.
The world needs more cat dragons.
I was going to say, occasionally as authors, I might have put a cat dragon in one of my books purely so I would have an excuse to like have cat dragons more in my daily language. So.
Oh yeah. Well, what are we going to talk about next time? We want to talk about our top books of 2017.
Yes, we're talking about a book explosion episode. So top books of 2017 and what we thought about them, and get an idea of ways you can evaluate books that aren't just going down and
checking off the list if they use too many adverbs, right?
Oh, goodness, yes. And the thing is, as writers, we can really bring some of our own baggage with writing to reading books. So it's important to go into books and be like ready to read them, you know, as readers as well. And there's ways you can try to shut off your writer brain to do that. And
sometimes you're just looking for specific things that tick off specific things for you. And what those things are for me, you will find out. And my hint to you is they probably involve dragons.
just maybe involve dragons. Yeah.
But I hope you guys can tune in then, and that we can have some more fun talking about porgs and dragons.
All right. So we'll see you next time on Indie Book Magic.
Bye-bye.